I thought I was moving into a bargain. I was moving into someone else's nightmare. I had just rented the cheapest apartment I could find near my workplace. The landlord said I was lucky, close to the office, spacious, affordable. I signed the lease that same day. That first night, I discovered why it was so cheap. Every night at exactly 9, the couple next door argued for hours. Doors slammed, furniture scraped across the floor, and sleep became impossible. I figured they were just terrible neighbors. After a week, I'd had enough. I walked over and knocked on their door. The arguing stopped instantly. I waited. No footsteps, no voices, no one answered. Feeling awkward, I walked back to my apartment. The moment I closed my own door, the argument started again. I laughed it off. Maybe they heard me coming. Maybe they just didn't want to answer. The next morning, I found a child's drawing slipped under my door. A little boy holding his father's hand, no message. I pinned it to my refrigerator and forgot about it. A few nights later, the argument became worse, much worse. Furniture crashed. Glass shattered. The woman screamed. Then, I heard a little boy crying. He was sobbing so hard I couldn't understand what he was saying. For a second, I actually reached for my phone to call the police. Then, silence. The next morning, everything looked perfectly normal. No police, no broken windows, no signs that anything had happened. A week later, I was leaving for work. As I stepped outside the building, a wooden cabinet came crashing down from the apartment next door. It shattered just a few feet away. If I'd walked any faster, it would have landed on me. That was enough. I went straight to the landlord. I told him everything, the arguments, the screaming, the crying child, the cabinet. He listened quietly, then frowned. That apartment has been empty for 3 years. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He unlocked the apartment himself. Dust covered every surface. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling. The air smelled stale. Nobody had lived there in years. I wanted to leave, but finding another apartment wasn't easy, so I convinced myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe the landlord was lying. Maybe someone had been sneaking in. Maybe I'd imagined more than I realized. A week later, someone finally rented the apartment next door. A young woman. For the first time since moving in. The building was quiet. I thought it was finally over. A few days later, I got home late from work. She was waiting outside my apartment. The moment she saw me, she sighed in frustration. Finally, I looked at her confused. "Can you please keep it down at night?" I frowned. "What?" She crossed her arms. "The arguing, every single night. I haven't slept properly since I moved in." I stared at her. "I've been working late all week." I held up my office access card. "I only just got home." She didn't answer. She just looked past me. At my apartment door. Neither of us said another word. I unlocked the door. Everything was exactly where I'd left it. Out of habit, I looked toward the refrigerator. The child's drawing was still there. At first, I couldn't understand what felt different. Then I saw it. The blank white background was gone. Behind the father and son was my living room. Every detail, exactly as it was. My eyes shifted to the man. Until then, he'd just been a faceless crayon figure. Now, his hair, his clothes, his posture, they looked painfully familiar. I stepped closer. My heart stopped. The father looked exactly like me. I looked at the little boy. He was still holding my hand. Both of them were staring straight at me.